When you think of churn, we typically measure it in people and we think in averages. But if you think across the landscape of your gym right now, there are some members who spend more than others. And generally speaking, I would say it's probably your lower spending members churn at the highest rate. You want to build a business that does not churn your best members. Obviously, you don't want to be too militaristic about it. Like, you don't want to make people feel bad or shame them or whatever. But the point is, like, we're here to help you. And part of that is just making sure that you show up so we can help you. There's an angle to that that really works. There's some people who'll be like, I don't want you bugging me. I quit the gym. That's okay. I believe the numbers show that type of business motion is more successful than not. So like, let those people filter to where they should go, which might be a Planet Fitness, and work with the customers that are going to pay you the amount to give them the results that they're paying for. I think we have the scarcity mindset of like, we can't lose anybody. But the point is like, you can lose the wrong fit, but you have to know what your fit is in order to make that decision if they're a right or wrong fit.
This is the Reinforce Your Gym podcast with your host, Dustin Vogel. This show is about arming gym owners with the tools, strategies, and lessons they need to take their business to the next level. That way, they can make a greater impact in their community. Now, let's get to work and reinforce your gym.
All right, guys, welcome in to another episode of the Reinforce Your Gym podcast. I, of course, am your host, Dustin Vogel, and I'm excited for all my gym owners that are listening to this show. You guys know I love bringing on awesome guests to add value, and that's what we plan to do today. So we're going to talk about the behind-the-scenes side of things, software, data, and how to scale your business the right way off of knowing your numbers and what are some key metrics that you need to know, and how you can just get a little bit more friendly, because I know this is intimidating to a lot of gym owners, is like getting comfortable with their numbers and understanding what they need to do exactly to get to that next level of growth. So my guest is the founder of PushPress, and that is Dan Uyemura. All right, Dan, are you ready to do this, my friend?
Oh, let's do this.
All right. Well, Dan, just to give the audience who doesn't know you and your background story, why don't you give them that summary example of where you came from? A, how'd you get into fitness? And then B, how'd you get into business? Because sometimes those are inflection points overlap. Sometimes they're different.
Yeah. I'll try and keep this super short because I'm trying to condense about 30 years of my life into hopefully 60 seconds. But I was a coder in my earlier career. I came out of college and I was coding. The internet had just kind of broke when I came out of college. So I wrote a bunch of internet apps and was working as an engineer. Decided I got tired of sitting behind a desk. In my earlier life as a child, I was very much into working out, sports, fitness, all of those things. So I kind of just went a whole 180 and I stopped coding and I opened a gym. When I opened the gym, I realized that all the software that was available was not up to par for what I knew could be built, for one. And also I felt it was a little bit predatory. Like, I had bad experiences as a consumer. I felt like the terms they were trying to drop on me, the contracts, the pricing of payments, all of these things it felt a little slick. And I didn't really like it. And I actually found out after I'd opened my gym about 6 months in that I got lied to on my payments terms. I thought I was paying 1.9%. I had a banker as a member early on in my gym, and he told me it's not possible. Give me your bank statement. Came back to me the next day, told me I was paying 4.8%. So I felt pretty lied to, and decided, since I knew how to build the software and I knew that I was a champion of software or gym owners, that I would try to build something from the inside out that would be more protective of gym owners.
Love it.
Yeah.
I can relate to that, because the first gym my dad signed me up for was Bally's, 3 years contract. And then we moved out of the area, and it was like this ironclad contract to get out of. And they even sent me to collections as a young adult getting my first job. And I was just like, this is crazy. And it really burned me from wanting to ever get a gym membership for a long time.
Yeah.
So
I can go off on a rant on that, but contracts really piss me off, especially when they're designed to be punitive and handcuffy. Like, I very strongly believe your value of your company should be the handcuffs, not a legal contract. So that's a whole nother tangent I can go off on. But
well, let's dive into this, man. So again, the main folks joining this are coaching studio type gyms, group training. Some are large groups, some are small, some offer PT, wide ranging, but all the same, they still need to know their numbers. So I know that's one of your specialties, and that's why I was excited to have you on. So let's dive into a couple of things. The first was, well, you kind of call this 150 member magic ceiling. And so if you can kind of explain what this is.
Actually, before we do that, let's talk about churn rate, because the churn rate is one of the drivers of this. And I think the magic ceiling is actually one of the most impactful things to visualize and understand. So we definitely will do that. But churn is the biggest driver of that. And I can explain why in a minute. But if you don't know what churn is, it's kind of a technical jargon for the members that quit every month. And in your gym, that's your most important metric, mainly because I'll tell you, most gym owners that I speak to always have this mantra of, I need more members. And the reality is the only reason you need more members is because you're losing members. And so I believe if the focus becomes, and I'll show you in this chart how this becomes the case, but if your focus becomes, I need to lose less members, and then I need to add members, the dynamics of your business will change. And a lot of that just has to do with focus, right? And this will be a theme that I kind of drive throughout this conversation, but it's like, it would be like showing up to the gym. I'm going to relate everything back to gyms and the people we train. And imagine if a gym member just came in and just had no focus on what they wanted to do. Or if all they said was just like, I need to bench more, but they weren't really thinking about what they have to do to bench more. It's insane, right? That's a kind of an insane way of thinking about it. So that's why to me, the churn rate is the most important. And what we found at PushPress is the number one thing that affects churn. I'm going to let you guess because it's so stupidly obvious. The number one thing that affects churn, what do you think is?
Attendance.
Attendance. And it's the easiest thing you can get people to do. But again, if you think about where your mindset is, if you're like, I need more members, all you're thinking about doing is finding more members, attracting more members, marketing, dealing with new members. Meanwhile, the one person that is paying the bills in your gym slowly stops coming, you miss it, ends up quitting, you miss it. And it puts you into this downward spiral cycle of like, I need more members, even more now. All you need to do is get people to come to the gym. So here's what we see in PushPress, like across like millions of data points, we have 12 years of data. If you can get a member to come 8 times, average churn rate is a little bit over 8% a month. And so what does that mean? That means in 12 months, you churn 96% of your members, or basically your entire membership base will turn over. The number one pushback I get on that is like, well, that's impossible because I have 120 members. You know, how am I losing all my members? Well, you've actually added 120 members in that time, and you've lost 120 members in that time, and you have your 120 members. This is the magic number I'm going to talk about in a second. So base churn rate's 8%. If you can get someone to come 8 times a month, and this is in group training type gyms, so the numbers might vary based on modality of fitness, but you get someone to come 8 times a month, it cuts it down to like 5.5% a month. If you can get someone to come 12 times a month, it cuts it down to a little over 4%. And if they come 15 times per month, it cuts it under 4%, 3 point something percent. So as we'll see in a second, when I go over this little model that shows you kind of this magic number, this percentage is everything to your business. And I think it's the number one thing you got to do. And all you have to do to drive that is get people to show up, right? And so this might be a theme in this whole discussion today of metrics, but the way I think of themes is like we are, as a society, focused on what I call outputs. Churn is an output metric. It's almost like saying, I want to bench more. That's an output. Your bench is the output. But to bench more, you've got to do some work. You've got to do 5x5 cycle. You might have to do some macro movements that, you know, like strengthen your tricep, like whatever it is, like there are inputs to that output. And in this case, the input to churn, the number one driver of churn is attendance. So like what we found at PushPress is the gyms that set up a committed club. So it's like some type of a club that rewards them for coming 12 or 15 times a month. On general, see a revenue uptick, a churn decrease, a membership growth uptick. That's just very plain as day to see. So that's how you drive these things.
Now, this definitely, I know you reference it as the silent killer of gyms, that it's right around them, but you can't see it. And one of the things that I get when I talk about this with gym owners is 2 concerns. I have not been reaching out and holding people accountable to attendance. And I'm afraid that if I start doing this, I'm going to start getting a wave of cancellations because I'm acting like a bill reminder. Like, hey, you haven't been in, you haven't been in. You're like, oh, well, thanks. You've been reminding me so much. Actually cancel me. That's concern number 1. Concern number 2 is they're not going to respond. I can reach out and show as much care as possible. What if I do if I do 20 reach outs and they're not replying to me? So do you have any advice? I just come with a terrible.
No, okay. So I think the first I'm going to call it an excuse, is a fallacy. So what that is, that's like saying, I got cancer in my body, but if I actually go in and look, I might have more cancer than I thought. You know what I mean? Like, let's get rid of the cancer. So if you have a bunch of members who are who are on the verge of quitting because they haven't been coming anyways, they're gone. They're already gone. Like, that's just cut them out. Like, either force them to come or force them to quit. I know that's going to suck in the term, but you've got to build a business that has foundation. And if your whole foundation is, half your membership base is on the verge of quitting, you don't have a foundation right now. So to me, you might want to meter it out and say like, okay, I know that this 50% of my gym is on the verge of quitting. I'm only going to talk to them in waves so I can slowly wave them out and bring in new people to replace them. Probably the smarter way of doing it. But the bottom line is like, if you've let it get to that point, it is what it is. They're going to quit eventually anyway.
And this is where the rubber meets the road of the gyms that say we offer accountability, but then no real accountability is being done day in, day out. If you want a gym to have that, you have to do these things and you have to do them all year round, right? And keep that up so that
Yeah. In fact, it needs to be a daily thing. In terms of the they might ignore it thing, it has to become such a cultural value proposition of your gym. Like accountability. We want you here. You need to show up to get what you want. Hey, Dustin, you told me these are your goals. You're going to get them if you come 4 times a week. I need you to do that. In fact, the culture of this is so deep. I talked to some of my best performing gyms on PushPress. This is what they do in the sales consult. Hey, Dustin, I'm super psyched. You want to join the gym. I love the fact that you want to lose 30 pounds over the next year. Totally can be done. I need you to come 4 times a week to do that. Can you do that? Yes. Do you promise to do that? Because if you can't promise me you're going to do that, I think you should go to 24-hour fitness and save some money for now and come back when you're ready. They negative sell them on it. And they just tell them like, hey, if you aren't coming 3 or 4 times a week, a coach is going to call you. And if you make this a pattern, we're going to start to reevaluate if you should be a member here. How do you feel when I say that to you as a consumer?
I feel like this place is going to be different. You guys have a high standard and I'm going to be taken to my goals with that standard.
Yeah. And you actually are buying in right there before you give them your credit card. You're saying like, I promise you I'm coming 4 times a week. I'm going to do it. And you know that if you don't, you're not a member of this gym. That's how you create a foundation of great members, right? But you have to live up to it on the business side. You can't just say that and then not do it. So you have to provide that. Okay. So when you build this in your culture, let me finish this up real quick. Sorry. It's as simple as like end of class. As a culture, I give everyone a high five as a coach and I say, see you tomorrow. That doesn't cost anything, right? Nobody can avoid that. Everyone will hear it, right? And it's like, how do you embed that into culture? There should be a sign. There should be a sign above the door. See you tomorrow, or whatever it might be that reinforces this thought. None of this stuff costs money, but it takes some thought to build that culture.
Of that. Okay.
This is what the world's best gyms do.
So we covered those. Anything else you want to say on retention before we go to the magic ceiling?
No, but quickly, let me talk about customer growth because this is the magic ceiling is a math equation between growth and churn. Okay. So customer growth it's the other end of the equation. And this is the one everyone's obsessed with, but they don't talk about it in certain goals. And that's the flaw. So I hear people say like, I need more members. And then I go, how many? And they go, I don't know, more. Right? Like probably most of the people listening to that, that's generally the thought process that went through their head when they just heard that. You have to have a goal and your goal needs to be modeled out in some degree. Like, hey, like you don't just show up to the gym and say like, I just want to do stuff. Most people who train show up to the gym and say, oh, my goal this year is I want to run a marathon or I want to be able to bench 2 times my body weight or whatever it is. There's something in the back of their head that they're working towards for everything that they do. That's what we do as trainers and as gym members. But they don't treat their business this way. So in the end, you should say, hey, my goal for the gym is I need to get to $36,000 a month in revenue so I can pay myself X dollars a month and make sure my coaches get this year. That's my goal. The only way to do that is to reduce churn and to increase your members or to increase the amount that your members pay you. There's only 3 levers to that. It's pretty simple. So this is the second one, increase members. So you can do this on a spreadsheet pretty easy. Like if my goal is to get to $36,000 a month, I need to get to, I don't know, whatever, 182 members. That's what the spreadsheet tells me. And I'm at 132 right now. So I need to get plus 50 over the year. And that's where people stop. Like I need more members. I need 50. Well, no, just break that down, divide by 12. I need like 4 members a month, plus 4. right? Now that's net of churn. So if you're losing 8 members a month, you need to add 12 or drive your churn down. So I think that's another powerful thing is like, you need to tell yourself every month ticked over. It is now March 1st or whatever. I need to go +4 and have that on a wall. And every time like you lose one, it becomes +5. Every time you gain one, it becomes, addition and subtraction, and hit your goals. Like find a way to hit your goals. And that's how you manufacture growth, just starting with the mindset of I have to grow. Now let's talk about the magic ceiling. This is kind of the big one. This is the point where if you don't like math and you don't like spreadsheets and numbers, your eyes might glaze over. But I put it on a chart here that I can share that hopefully will at least make this somewhat digestible. Okay, for all the audio listeners, you're just gonna have to mentally play along. So right now, here's what we're looking at. We're looking at a gym that has 100 members to start. I've actually built in a funnel, but let's just, we'll just skip past that because if you really think about your business, you're thinking of a funnel with a demo rate, a show rate, and a close rate. So I have these modeled out down here. So in this gym, they do 20 demos a month. They have an 80% show rate, so only 16 people show up. They have a 65% close rate. So of those 16, 10 people become new members. And they have an 8% churn rate, which I said is the average of, all gyms on PushPress in general. And I put an average ticket price of $150. Now, if you can see this, you'll see that the growth, and actually I should make this chart a little more magnified, but the growth here is upticking until about month 15, 14 or 15. Actually, we can look at it here. So you can see right around here, which is month 14. So a year and 2 months into this chart, you flatline. And the reason you flatline is because your growth, the number of new members you add, is linear. Like you can only add a certain number of people, but your churn is a percentage because the bigger you get, the more you're going to churn. That's just the law of a business, right? So at an 8% churn rate and adding 10 members a month come month 14, you're adding 10 and churning 10.
Yeah.
So this is why like every gym grows to like 100, 150, 200, whatever this inflection point is, and then they can never get past it. And I guarantee if you're listening to this gym and you haven't just opened it in the last 3 months, you already there. Like you're like, oh, I have 120 members. I've had the 120 members for the last 19 months. That is it. And there's nothing you can do at this point to escape it without changing one of two things. The members you sign up a month, which is harder to change because that's a members, like that's a flat number. If I make that 12, you're just going to flatline a couple more months down the road, or changing your churn rate. So let's play with these numbers. Like I told you, if somebody gets someone to come 15 times a month, their churn rate goes to a little bit below 4%. So what we're doing is we're flatlining here at, but $22,000-ish you're flatlining at, right? If we turn this to 4%, like you get everyone in your gym to come, between 12 and 15 times a month, right? So now you can see like we don't even cap out yet. We're capping out around the end of the model here at around $33,000, $33,500, okay? So, and at this point, you're still adding, right? So you're still adding 10 and churning 9. So there's still a very slow growth that's happening at the end of this thing. And this thing is 4 years deep. So we went from capping out at month 14, now at a 4% churn rate. We're still growing 4 years in. Slow, but we're still growing a little bit. And the difference here, I don't remember what the number, what did I say? It was like $22,000 or something. Wasn't it? Now we're a $33,750 gym and still growing slightly just by making sure people show up. So you've almost, not a double, but 75-ish% growth by focusing on the churn side. And that's why, as I go through this, it's more important to focus on the churn first. Eventually, you're going to get your churn to a place you can't really get it much lower. I don't think it's possible to get lower than 3, in my opinion, in this industry. And then focus on the new members. So like, let's imagine that you doubled your funnel. And instead of having 20 leads a month, you had 40, which is pretty astronomical. Like these are probably, more like Globo Gym type numbers, getting closer to. But you do 40, which means you would end up with 32 actual in-gym demos a month, and you would be doing about 21 new members a month based on these numbers, right? And going back to the 8% churn rate. Now, this actually shows you're capping out at about 36,300. So you're making a little bit more money, 38,500, sorry. So you're making about $5,000 a month more, a little bit less than $5,000 a month more, but you're doing double the work because you have double the amount of people coming in and double the amount of people turning over. So if you think of your onboarding, you went from onboarding 10 people a month to onboarding 21 people a month, which is a significant amount of work, right? So there are ways you can outrun it a little bit. Like this will let you outrun it to 38,500, but it becomes a factor of how much onboarding time are you spending? How much work are you doing for the people that invariably leave within a year's time? So that's the magic number. And again, hopefully that resonates with people and they understand it. But I guess if you can simplify it as much as you can, the math works. I think it's if you divide your new members by your churn rate, it will tell you the maximum amount of members you can have.
And that's helpful because there's even that whole thing of like, hey, a lot of people, like, their minds start melting past maintaining 150 relationships. So if you're showing them how to like stay in that sweet spot of, 150 to 200 members and make more and work less with onboarding versus chasing 300 members. And now there's more relationships I need to have. These are more coaches I might need. There's a more, just admin work of offloading people and onboarding people. Like, what kind of business do you want? How do you want to build it?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point because to start servicing 300 members so the math is new members per month divided by churn rate. If you want to simply know what your magic ceiling is. But in this case, where you're doing 40 demos or 40 leads, 32 demos, and 21 new members a month at an 8% churn rate, your magic ceiling is 250 members ish. And to build a business that supports 250 members, you're going to have layers of management. Like you're going to have a general manager and probably a head coach, and it not only becomes more work to support them, but more costly.
And so I guess talking about churn, because this is obviously really good, or a lot of gyms definitely, this is, I'm sure, like really getting them to sit up and take this serious. You also bring up the idea of not all churn is created equal. So could you dive into that, good and bad churn? What does that look like?
Yeah. So when you think of churn, we typically measure it in people and we think in averages. But if you think across the landscape of your gym right now, there are some members who spend more than others. And generally speaking, I would say it's probably your lower spending members churn at the highest rate. So if you can cohort them or bucket them and say like people who spend in the bottom 5 percentile churn at this rate, people spend in the middle, and then people spend the best, you want to build a business that does not churn your best members, which is probably what people are inherently doing. But that's why there's a metric that we follow called gross revenue retention or revenue retention, which basically lets you look at the amount of churn in dollars that you have month over month. And you'll see sometimes like I might have churned 8 members, but I only churned $200 because 4 of them were like on a grandfathered found club, and one of them was, was my janitor who didn't pay. It's like you might have different paying members. So it's also helpful to look at the revenue that you're churning because that's actually what matters.
Uh, quality revenue sounds like that's great. And that's a good way of putting it, especially if people are having multi-tier service. Like let's say they have a small group and they have PT. I bet the PTs have much higher LTV time versus your group program, or online clients versus in person, right? Like all those types of things are good to compare.
And then depending on what stage you are in your business, it might like lower price tier churn might be necessary. Like for instance, if you did set up a founders club and you have 100 members paying you $50 a month, but your current going rate's 120 a month. Well, you only can service so many people. So it might actually be healthy for the business if some of those founder club people churned. So you might actually start building structure in your business that make it a little less exciting or enticing or a little less valuable for those founder club members to be a member anymore,
All right. Good advice. So when it comes to like learning numbers, another one that I was going to dive into with you is just how MRR should be looked at, monthly recurring revenue. I know you say it's one of those vital signs. So we need to have vital organs. What is vital, or I guess healthy MRR? Is it that I'm equivalent to my expenses? How much percentage am I trying to have in MRR versus paid in fulls or trial dollars? Like,
well, technically speaking, I would count paid in fulls as MRR, but you just have to divide it by 12 if paid in full is a year. You just want to know to some degree what your recurring revenue looks like on a monthly level because we typically pay our bills on a monthly level, right? You can expand this out into ARR, which is, annual recurring revenue, which is another way to look at it because you can also just say like in a year, my rent is $18,000. Actually, it's probably more than that, $58,000 or whatever. You can do it that way too. But MRR, I think, just is more simple for a lot of us to think about in terms of months because we're paying bills monthly, we're receiving money monthly. It's an easy breakdown. But MRR is, yeah, it's like your heart rate. You obviously always want that to go up and to the right. If it's not, there's something to look at. And since it's a recurring number, like if you break that apart from like product sales, like not all revenue is created equal. MRR is the foundation of the revenue side of your business. So you definitely, and a lot of people call it different things: direct debit, automated payments, whatever. MRR is just a standardized term in my world. And my push is to try to get gym owners to think more like business owners. And these are like standard business terms that are out there in the world. So I call it MRR.
Yeah. What are some others, like, again, if they should know their MRR, they should know their churn. What are, I guess, if you could pick your top 3 or 5, like what are numbers that you're like, if I could just get you to know these numbers, this would be my dying wish.
Yeah. So let me actually, I was just working on this with my someone. I'm writing a book about this stuff. So I'm actually pulling these apart. So MRR and member count and member growth, I think are important. Member count is less important because I think from the lens that used to be the metric only anyone ever cared about. How many members you have, kind of a vanity metric, but more member growth is what I'm looking for, which we talked about earlier. Member churn rate and then revenue churn rate, those two that I talked about. So you can look at those in combination. ARPU. So ARPU we haven't talked about yet. That's actually it's actually a lever in this growth model, which I can show you in a second. But ARPU is the average revenue per user. Again, that's a standard business term. In our world, you can say average revenue per member or average revenue per client. Doesn't matter, but you want to know the average revenue a person's paying you. Let me actually go back to sharing here so I can show you how ARPU affects this magic number as well. All right, back over to this sheet. So I reset it back. 20 demos, 10 members a month, 8% churn, standard stuff. And I think this one caps out at like, oh shoot, 17,800. We were wrong last time. Caps out at 17,000. Now, if we leave everything else the same, actually, let's go back to the 4% churn because I want people to keep modeling their mindset after that. So this was 17,800, let's call it 18,000 in revenue. You go to 4%, it turns to 33,750. So that is legit almost a double. And our ARPU is 150. So let's say somehow like through product sales, through a t-shirt club, through whatever, we can get this to 175 a month. We went from 33,750 to 39,375. So now we're basically a $40,000 a month gym. So those two changes, going from 8% churn to 4% churn and moving from 150 to 175 in ARPU, took us from a $18,000 gym to a $40,000 a month gym. Now here we're just playing with outputs here, but how do you do that? Like how do you get your churn rate down to 4? You can start to figure out those mechanisms in your gym. How do you sell $25 more worth of stuff? It could be a $10 price increase on your membership and $15 worth of merchandise on average people are buying, or one t-shirt a month or whatever it is. These are levers that you can actually deploy to significantly impact your top and bottom lines.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I've even seen gyms put their clients on a supplement subscription, and once they renew 2 products, they're easily going to have at least $25 in profit, so they can inch that up.
Yeah, and anything you can build in that's a subscription or a monthly fee is gold. Again, that becomes MRR and that becomes gold. So if you can do that, so you're not like every month trying to sell them another shirt. It's just like, hey man, every month to show up, you get a brand new cool shirt. It's gonna be $25 a month. We'll just tack that on. If you can get, your membership buying into those types of things, it's part that, again, this is part culture. Like imagine if everyone else is rocking the new shirt every month and you don't want to be the only one not doing it. So it's like the culture of it helps. And then it's also the value. So, maybe it's like we sell these for $35 one off, but you can resubscribe and save for $22.50.
Yes.
So
And now you got walking billboards as well. So you got a little bit of marketing built in. All right. Well, I want to just kind of have you, because you have so many gyms in your software and you can see all the data. Obviously, you don't have to share names, but just comparing top performing gyms versus bottom performing, besides attendance and really attacking churn, is there anything else you see them do just day to day that separates them from the bottom performing gyms?
yeah, I mean, this is going to be a non-tactical answer, so it won't help you in any specific way. But what I see the best do is they have this growth intentionality in their business across the board. And so this could be like, there's a gym that we have in Poughkeepsie, New York. Every year he does this, and every year I stopped calling because I know what he's doing now. But at Black Friday and right before Christmas, he has some limited time pre-sale where you can become a platinum member of the gym, which includes like 2 PTs a month, and it includes like the best parking spots, it includes the t-shirt club, it includes all this stuff. And I swear to God, I don't remember the numbers now, but it's like on one day, twice a year, because I watch like different gyms, what they're doing. He rings up like $150,000 in bills twice a year on one day. And it's all highly value add. And it's like from his lens, he's like, hey, I just reduced churn to 0 for the next year for all of these people. They're buying more things, they're getting more, the people that do, and they can renew it too. So it's like once you let it go, you can never get it again. But once you're in, you're in. So it creates this stickiness of like, I don't want to lose this feature. So he's really thought through how to manufacture this feature into his business. And it's almost like they talk about it. It's like, oh, you're going to have a chance in November. We only let 30 new people in a month or a year to do it. So jump on it when you get the chance. But I've been doing it for 4 years. That like the members probably end up selling it even, like, so that's that. And then, another gym in Kansas that I talked to, they do that thing where they tell you in the sales call, like, you have to come 3 to 4 times a week. We won't take you as a client if you won't. And then I actually sat in on one of their sales meetings and they do it. They have their roster, they have the attendance report. Every coach is 30, 40, 50 members. They're going through their spreadsheets and they're making calls after the meeting, like making calls, sending texts, sending emails. And I was like, well, this is why it works, because like they know when you don't come 3 times last week, you're getting a call, you know? And if you don't do it multiple times, you're being asked, like, do we need to reevaluate your membership here?
It's funny because when we did that at our gyms, that's how we did it. We call it a flock, and we gave each coach their own flock. And we would even see the clients message us when they no-showed, and they said, before you text me,
Yeah.
play why I didn't come to my 8 a.m. I got, a flat tire. And it's like, all right, this is a sign that it's working. It's
Yeah.
good. And they get ahead.
Obviously, you don't want to be too militaristic about it. Like, you don't want to make people feel bad or shame them or whatever. But the point is, like, we're here to help you. And part of that is just making sure that you show up so we can help you, like there's an angle to that really works. And I think it's okay. Like there's some people who be like, I don't want you bugging me. I quit the gym. That's okay. Because that's the type of, like, I believe that the numbers show that type of business motion is more successful than not. So like, let those people filter to where they should go, which might be a Planet Fitness, like, and work with the customers that are going to pay you the amount to give them the results that they're paying for. I think we have the scarcity mindset of like, we can't lose anybody. But the point is like, you can lose the wrong fit, but you have to know what your fit is in order to make that decision if they're a right or wrong fit.
And it sounds like, something that I talk about, but we're on the same page here. We just might be like referencing it or labeling it differently. Is I say, hey, retention does come from attendance. Like that is actively showing I'm engaged in the brand. But I say another form of retention, which you kind of alluded to that this owner does, is spending with the brand. Like when I'm buying shirts and I'm buying supplements and I'm buying a ticket to an event, that is also showing you I'm not going anywhere. I never had someone buy something from me additional to membership and cancel the next month. That's like a signal that I'm engaged with the brand. To your point, the people you should be most freaked out about pay base membership and they don't buy any extras month after month. They're doing the minimum amount to stay involved in the brand, where the diehards are buying more and more. I get Apple, and then I get a charger, and I got to get a case, and then I got to get the
Yes.
keep going deeper into the brand. So
100%. And why do you do that?
because I love
But why do you love the brand? I mean, ultimately, it's like they've created some type of a culture that you bought into and you trust and you align with,
that's it.
right? So it's trust and alignment.
Mhm.
But in order to do that in gyms, you have to stand for something or you have to have a position. And that position can be like, I will bend over backwards to make sure you come into the gym and get whatever it might be. But you have to like intentionally set the culture, the brand. There has to be so much intentionality in what you do so that people can attach to it. And then when they do, so like at PushPress, I get quotes from people all the time that are like, hey, if we started selling insurance for gyms and one of our clients called me and he's like, hey, you know me, man, anything you sell, I'm buying. Like, how do you create that mentality in your gym? It doesn't happen by accident.
Yes, they got to be bought into the mission and believe what you're doing around here is important work, and they want to support it. Right?
Which means you have to be vocal about it. It has to be everywhere. You have to talk about it, reinforce it. Your coaches have to talk about it. Your members should tell each other about it. Like whatever it is that is special about your gym, the members should be able to tell a lead. They should be able to tell their cousin, come to this gym because of X, Y, and Z. Like that's how deep it has to run.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, just taking a quick break to ask for one thing. If you can give us a 5-star review, it'd mean the world to me. It helps get me feedback on what you're enjoying about the show and how we're adding value to your business. And it helps us get the word out so we can turn the tide on this war against obesity. So give us a 5-star review and let's get back to the show. Well, Ben, I want to shift gears into something that is something you probably deal with often, and you run a software company, and I bet you run into gym owners who have software migration concerns, and they're like, hey, I'm in this other company, I'm not happy with X, Y, and Z, I'm checking out PushPress. And me, who've gone through it a couple of times in my own gyms, and just having gym owner friends that are either going through it or thinking of going through it, things that come up, like billing transfer migration. Is that going to be smooth? Will my members get put into there, or will I have to go and manually collect these credit cards? And this will cause a big, reason for cancellations. A new app, like now my clients have to learn a new app. My team has to learn a new app, this learning curve that they have to walk through. And they usually have this mindset of like, is it going to be worth it to go through this pain? What will be the outcome that'll make it worth it? So I guess, like, what are the top reasons you see people come to PushPress, like problems that you guys solve, or how do you address those concerns when people come to you with those types of concerns?
Okay, I'm gonna try and address those multiple things. I'm gonna try to address them all. If I get off track or I miss one, just redirect me. Why do we see people coming to PushPress? There are very few companies in our space right now. I'm not saying we're the only one, but there are very few who are actually actively trying to produce the best product possible. I also think there are very few competitors in the space that are comprised of, like, I would say before it used to be 100%, it's probably down to 50% of our staff now have owned a gym. So like we have such a unique lens into this problem, and we know how to talk to gym owners, and we know how to pick apart their problems and listen to what they're saying and translate that into product in a way that I don't think many other companies do. Let's talk about the pain of churn. I think by and large, that's another one of those sunk cost fallacies of, what were we talking about? Like, I don't want to email people because they're going to quit, of attendance. If you're not happy with your software, now I also will agree. Sometimes like we're unhappy for reasons that aren't material, or the grass feels greener sometimes. You have to evaluate that. But if your software is causing you pain, or if anything's causing you pain, not even just software, but if it's causing you pain and is problematic, the fact that people might quit is like, it's a fallacy to me, because those people are going to quit eventually anyway. And it's really like, what is for the good of your own business first? Now, will there be turbulence? Yes. Is it going to be harder to go through a 3-month window where you're learning new software and you're transitioning people? Yes. And that has to be a decision you make for yourself of if and when that pain is worth the whatever upside might come. It's our job to make that upside go further and further. You know what I mean? Like every day, every month, I want everyone who's thinking about switching, who's on the fence, to lose more, because our product gets better and better and better every month. Sooner or later, the value prop will be big enough for them to come. That's our job. But I do think like, oh, will people quit? If they were going to quit, they're going to quit anyway. You're just ripping a Band-Aid here. Or again, you can do it kind of intelligent where you say like, well, I know these 18 members right here are going to quit if I talk to them, so I'm not going to talk to them. I'm going to leave my old system up because the old system costs $200 a month, but these 18 people are paying me $3,000 a month or whatever. And I'm just going to leave that up and just let them drop off, because they will. Like, I'm not going to even talk to them, because if I even ask them to come back to the gym, they're going to quit. So I'm just going to let them just sit on an island. And every month, one of them is going to quit. And after 18 months, I'm going to turn off that other software, because now I'm losing money on that software. I've been living over here this whole time anyways, right? And on top of that, there's like intelligent way, like the migration there is a lot on the owner, but it's not like go collect credit cards from every one of your members, because you can, like with our migration system, you can pick a set of people and just say like, send them the member app download, which will include the ability for them to like return on their membership by entering their credit card. When they check in, it won't let them check in if their membership has lapsed. And you can just say, like, just to have a person stand there and just say like, oh, you weren't able to check in? Just leave me your credit card and I'll have that fixed by the end of class, or see me after class and we'll deal with it. Right. That usually works, because the new check-in system they have, it's very, I think it's intuitive, but you want to have someone standing there and just be like, oh, just click that button and you're done, show them how to do it, and then they can monitor it too. So there's a lot of ways to work around it that I think fall outside of the scope of the fear of what we're seeing. But I also don't want to lie. Like, it is a disruptive process to a business, and I understand that. So our position is, going back to what I said earlier, we're just going to keep making it better. And eventually that value will overweigh the pain that you feel like you're going to feel.
Love it. But yeah, I mean, I specifically like that point where you said get all your advocates, all your hardcore regular power users in there first, troubleshoot it, and leave the people that are, we call them MIA clients, are missing in action, leave them away until they're ready to re-engage with the membership, and then move. Oh, now that you're back, let's get you into the new app, and you can one do like that hand-to-hand combat. I think where, again, we saw a lot of people, even my gyms, when I changed the transition, was there was like, it was done through email. And it's just like, no, and that's my bad because I was trying to be lazy and get things done in bulk. But when you have these delicate clients, it's better you do it one-to-one and you guide them right then together through the transition from old system into new system, So that you guys got all.
There's always a silver lining with everything. And like some gyms that I've talked to, I think they've done something pretty smart, which is like, okay, you got those 18 members who are probably going to quit. Well, once you get all your good members through, you just schedule a one-on-one with them. And you just say like, hey man, I noticed you haven't been coming lately. Let's reset. I'll give you 6 months for the price of 3. I'm going to do some PT with you, but I really want, like, have your goals changed? Like, is your life different? Like, are you feeling great about your health right now? Most people will say, no, I'm not feeling great. No, my having goals have changed. Let's reset then, like we're on this new system. Things are looking good at the gym. Like let's give you a discount for the first 3 months and just get you in here. And you actually can bring back members with that opportunity. Again, it's just all a matter of how creative you are at thinking through the problems you're faced with. But I see gyms do this all the time and it works.
Yeah. Smart. I love that.
You got to think from the lens of a gym member who's on, in the MIA bucket, they probably feel shamed. So it's like, if you can bring them in and just say like, hey dude, let's just reset. No big deal. Like it's fine. It happens, like you're probably going to save at least half of them.
Yeah. And a lot of they have shame in themselves, but a lot of times they have shame to see you and look you in the eye.
They don't, they're ashamed to have that conversation with you because they know they're letting you down, especially if you have a culture of like, I need to see you 3 times a week. So that's where you can just, play the good cop and just say, it happens, man. Like I had, like I went through a spell where I didn't work out for 3 or 4 months. Like we all get busy, we all get in our heads, but that's not good for you. Like, let's just knock that off and get you back in here. I'll even work with you on a deal,
Now, I know with software, you guys always got things in the pipeline. What's coming up that you're excited about, or what are things that you guys get referenced about a lot that are like popular features?
I think I'm gonna talk about what I'm excited about because I actually have confidence that we are down the path of working this way, which is exciting. 2 things, and they're all based around the concept of AI and data. So one is the data piece. I haven't even talked about this with anyone yet, so this is kind of like quote unquote breaking here, but we have 12 years worth of data. Because we've been operating and servicing gyms since 2013. We're working on a new plan creation system. The problem to solve here is like you create a gym and you're just like, I don't know, I'll price my memberships at 125 because the gym down the street does it at 135. Like that's the thought process we have, right? We have enough data now where I can say like, oh, what type of gym are you? What's your zip code? Well, the average gym charges 132.7. The best gyms in terms of performance charge 162, and the worst gyms charge 95. The best gyms look like this, the worst gyms look like that. What type of gym do you want to run? Right? And then we'll help you pick your pricing based on what the market data is showing. And we can start doing that across everything. But the plan stuff, they're actually like almost about to launch. So that's looking cool. So yeah, leveraging a lot of the market insights we have to help gym owners actually know if they're making a good or bad decision, or at least let them know this is what the market looks like. You're intentionally making this decision, and that's okay. The other thing is AI. So now it's like the time is right now. So we can start working AI functionality into a lot of the stuff that we're building. So like I've seen mock-ups now where they're starting to work on, standard, like you log in and you look at your member report. Well, now it's like, let's chat with your member data. Which members have a high potential of churn? Which members have been here the longest? Like pull up a list of members. So instead of reporting, it's just going to be like, pull up a list of members that live closest to the gym and send them a text message that tells them we're having a party that's invite only on Friday. Right? Like this is where the software is going. And this is like the steps we've already taken the steps to make this a reality. And I could see all software, but specifically PushPress, becoming less Dustin wakes up, logs in, goes and thinks about what he has to do, goes to the page he has to do it, enters the information he has to do, and instead logs in and PushPress tells you, Dustin, you need to do these 3 things right now. That's the most important 3 things you have to do. But here's a backlog of other things that we've identified for you to do. Oh, by the way, do you want me to just do it for you? Because I can do it for you. Like, that's where software's going.
That's Jarvis for gym owners, man. That's executive assistant built in. I love it. So
Did you use Jarvis?
oh no, I'm talking about the Iron Man.
Oh,
I'm just like,
yeah.
man, as is Jarvis, you just made the gym owner feel like Iron Man, like that's cool. I'm really
Yeah, that's where it's going. We just raised a big financing round to basically support product development in that direction.
All right. Congrats, man. That's exciting. I can
Not
see
there yet. It's February 13th, 2025. We're not there yet. So
yeah, I
but we
know.
are working that way.
Software, I know it's always like a gigantic wish list, and it's like prioritizing what we can work on now and starting to chip away at it. So
It's a moving target because whatever's cool today in 2 years will be like table stakes. Who cares? So
and then the pricing, I mean, just going back to that, I actually said that there's like 2 gigantic decisions an owner will make, and it will be their location and it will be their pricing. And these 2 things have just a gigantic domino effects that you will deal with for years to come, is what you choose to place your gym and what you choose to price. So the fact that you're going to help people, with this giant decision, because to your point, we usually make it alone and in a place of comparison, just looking at websites, to have a guide, to have someone that's going to help you talk through that. It's kind of like you're getting a franchise level of support even if you're an independent owned gym,
yeah, that's actually one of our tenets that we use around here is we're trying to be the franchiseless franchise support for gyms. So it's like all the stuff a franchise would give you, we give you for the price of software.
Wonderful.
Across the board. Yeah.
Love it.
That's a good point.
And so as we wrap up here, man, where could they follow you and see your teachings? And then, where can they go to learn about PushPress software if they're interested?
Yeah, so I do enough of these podcasts now. I've actually built a landing page. How conceited of me, but the team was like, "Hey, you need one URL to send people to." So it's PushPress spelled like it sounds .com/Dan. Pretty easy to remember. I think that has links off to like some of the things I've written, the podcasts I'm on, stuff like that. My Instagram. I try to put out a reel a day on Instagram, talking through like all of this stuff that I see and have thought about. And PushPress is just pushpress.com. So it's gym software, servicing the small and boutique industries and, diving deeper and deeper into AI every day.
Love it. All right. Awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for everything you do to serve gym owners. Again, I see you're one of the real ones out there doing important work, helping them to get what I tend to find they think is the unsexy side of their business is their numbers, and helping them make it more sexy. And so it sounds like a lot of things you're working on at PushPress is going to make it only better and better, make it easier and easier. And so they can, again, make a bigger impact and change more lives. So appreciate you, man. Thank you for all you do. And for anybody that's looking for a great software, check out PushPress because they got their stuff together.
Thank you, Dustin.
Hey, gym owners, let's face it, you probably don't love digital marketing. You probably don't want to go into Facebook and load the ad up and think of ad copy and creatives and optimize it daily. Well, hand that over to me and my team because we're geeks about marketing and we want to flood your gym with new members so you can change their life. Let us do what we do best. All right, go to gymreinforcements.com, book a call. Don't bring the credit card. It's not a hard pitch. It's just a conversation to see if we're a good fit. Talk soon.